Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. We're going to begin with a map here that looks at the difference between 2019 and 2020. What we're looking at is the time period of March 1st through June 13th, and any place on this map that is color shaded in red represents where the total accumulated precipitation during that time period was wetter for 2020 than it was for 2019. Now, we often hear across much of the United States a lot of discussion about how wet 2019 was in terms of its spring thunderstorm activity, but you can see that parts of the Mid-South, parts of the Carolinas, getting down to the Southeast, gosh, 2020 was a much wetter year, a start to the year, as 2019 was. And we need to take that and do something with it and try to understand where precipitation patterns are going, because I think part of the story is told right here, just looking back over the last 72 hours of total accumulated precipitation. In particular, there are three features I want to watch. First, there has been a boundary lingering right in through here all weekend long. That was the remnants of the two big systems that came through last week, Cristobal and the kind of back end low that was on the back side of it. Well, they draped a front across the coastal Carolinas here over the weekend, putting some locally heavy rain. Now, immediately to the north and west of there, we had over the weekend a weak cutoff low that came through parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. And it is going to slowly develop into a cutoff low that is going to absolutely soak North Carolina and South Carolina and parts of Virginia over the next week. And then behind that is a deep upper level trough that is sweeping through the Canadian prairies, who then much later in the time period beyond this week is actually going to bring its front through the Carolinas, adding even more rainfall as we look out into the week 2 time period. Now, that system that's over there to the north and west was pretty powerful in the Canadian prairies. I just want to show you this because it's quite amazing. Beth Allen took this incredible picture here. This is near Calgary, showing you a massive supercell thunderstorm. And this particular storm put down a lot of hail. Watch that video over there on the right. This lady went out to her car after the hail just piled up here, up to golf ball size hail, just destroying things in and around parts of this region of Alberta. And of course, the picture over there on the left showing some of the damage to the siding on these homes. Incredible. Well, that storm system is going to get to you, but it's going to take at least another week before it does so. The pattern seems to be quite slow right now. And here they all are. Ready? You can see the cutoff low that came out of right here out of Wisconsin and Michigan yesterday, and it is just slowly sliding down here toward the Carolinas, where it is just going to sit and spin for several days. Meanwhile, look at the big deep trough that's plowing through the Pacific Northwest, getting up in the Canadian prairies. It too is going to be sitting and spinning in that area for a while. And these two things combined are going to give us some very wet conditions. So early this morning, we can already see the widespread scattered showers across the Carolinas, and we're going to have a trajectory of moisture over the coming days coming right off of the Atlantic and just going to continue to feed into this area, wrapping around that cutoff low I just showed you in the water vapor loop, and make things very unsettled and very wet all week long. So let's just watch it here. This is the next 60 hours of precipitation as forecast by the NAM model, and it's showing you what the radar is likely going to look like. And so we can see here's our early morning precipitation, turning much of the state of North Carolina into a very soggy day today, again tomorrow on Tuesday, and even into early Wednesday morning. When we put it all together this week from the WPC, there's a broad sector, I'll outline it for you here, where we're calling for at least 1.5 inches of rainfall. And as you get in here, you can see my color bar quickly jumps up right here along the coast to easily picking up 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. We'll look at that a couple of different ways. First, we're going to take a look at this compared to normal. You see outside of that area, it's just this section of the Corn Belt, parts of the Pacific Northwest, and the getting into the Canadian prairies that are expected to be wet this week. All surrounding areas very dry, and a couple things to be on the lookout for. Not only will this section of the Cotton Belt be very dry, but as you get over into this part of Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, western Oklahoma, and Kansas, this area saw drought expansion in the latest drought monitor that was released at the end of last week. So there's a few things on the broader scale here I want you to be thinking about. But let's come right back to that precipitation map we're forecasting for North Carolina. And this is from the operational European model from early this morning. And this only takes you out to next Monday morning. And you can see the numbers here. Some locations we are anticipating picking up between 2 and 5 inches of rainfall with some locally heavier amounts. And it's going to be persistent. Now with that, I want to show you where we currently sit on the change in soil moisture from the beginning of the month. And so going into this, well, you can see crystal ball in through here. You can see the drier conditions that are developing here in the south central plains, and also how dry it's been in parts of North Carolina, getting over to the Ohio Valley, and then eventually up into parts of Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan. But we are about to see a pretty dramatic change in these moisture values in the coming week. Now, are we going to be bringing in any severe weather with this? Well, I've got the next 5 days for you here. The top 3 maps are from the Storm Prediction Center. The bottom 2 are from our proprietary Thunderstorm Environment Index. Really, when you look at this, let's just look at the top images first. We do have just a general risk of thunderstorms over the next 3 days, so don't be surprised if we get a bit of lightning and thunder out of this, but nothing severe at this point. As we work our way into Thursday and Friday on our Thunderstorm Index, we are generally sitting between about 2 and 4. Now, when we start talking about severe weather, we're talking about 6 and above at this point. So again, just a general thunderstorm risk at the end of the week, and that carries even into Saturday as well, just to show you that. But that main front that's going to come through next week is just sitting here by Saturday. So that's why I told you that system that's curling up in the northwest into the Canadian prairies, it's going to be the one that gives us some problems into next week. So let's watch it all together. Ready? If I just click play, you're just going to see a lot of the same stuff going on across the Carolinas all the way through the end of this week. But let's give you a little more detail than that, okay? So working our way through Monday, and then eventually into Tuesday, it's just widespread scattered showers coming right in off this moisture stream, right in through here and there, and it just keeps hitting the same area over and over. 90% chance of rain each day, generally accumulating each day between a half and an inch of total rainfall. And as we work our way out to Friday, it's still sitting and spinning there. And by the way, here's that low that I just showed you plowed through this area over the weekend. It's still sitting in this area. So let's just talk about now toward the end of the week, because now as we get into Friday, look, Friday morning, afternoon, and evening, just some widely scattered showers and storms at that point. No longer the heavy persistent rain that we saw. As we get our way into Saturday morning, afternoon, and evening, again, it's just widely scattered at this point. But you will see that the break you get on Sunday is interrupted early next week as that frontal boundary finally gets in this area, such that by Tuesday afternoon and evening we again have a widespread area of scattered showers and thunderstorms. So it's just wet through at least the next 10 days in total. Now, as we look out to day 10, I want to point out a couple of features I want to be watching here. The trough that you see here, that is the one that's come sweeping through. Again, we're talking about getting into the middle of next week. That comes through, it gives us a better chance at some precipitation and keeps things on the drier side of things. This is the GFS, or excuse me, the European. The GFS has a much broader trough here and a much deeper trough sitting over the Aleutian Islands. And that's going to be critical for the temperature pattern I'm about to share with you. Even going out beyond that to, this is day 15, so we're out here to the 29th of June. What we see in the European is a ridge sitting right in through this area in general northwest flow. What we don't see is a big giant blocking ridge sitting over the southeast. It's not in the European, and it is certainly not in the GFS either. And that is good, because we would honestly be starting to worry. I mean, I know we got a lot of rain coming in, but I would be much more worried if instead of talking about rain, I was talking about a giant dominating blocking high, which we don't have right now, that was going to set things up for just drought development. So yes, we have a very soggy next 10 days or so, but still it is better than the alternative. Now, what about week 2? Well, we're getting some very interesting signals out of the tropics. Despite being in La Nina, we actually have a negative Southern Oscillation Index. That's actually more El Nino-like in the wind pattern. And the MJO is stuck, and I'll tell you the implications of that in a few minutes. But because of this, on the left I have the GFS, and on the right I have the European. Now, they have major differences across the country, but they both agree right now that when it gets over to the Carolinas, your chances of being near average to wetter than average look to be pretty good as we get out into this week 2 time period. To supplement that, I want to show you some analog forecasting. Now, this is July the 19th through the 21st. Remember, that's that brief little bit of reprieve we might get here from the rain, but notice in the day 9 through 11, that'd be the June 20th. Let's fix that, through the 24th. That's when we're going to go back over to our more stormy pattern. And it seems to want to last all the way out here, June 25th through the 27th. So we don't really break away. Remember what the jet stream was doing? Something like this. We don't break away from that regime of being active with thunderstorms moving forward to the end of this month. And this is the reason why, okay? As I take you all the way back to that time period, June 26th, you see there's a high sitting here, and there's kind of a secondary weaker high there. So what we end up getting is flow coming out of this high like this, and then it's also coming around like that. And both features are, can you see it here? Are kind of just bringing the moisture in and around, and as a result, this is just the wrong pattern to block everything up and make it hot and dry, all right? Here's the other piece of this. The Mad Julian Oscillation came out back at the end of May, screaming through phase 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1. And then, since the beginning of June, has just not been able to get out of phase 1 and 2. Now, what does that mean? Well, can you see the numbers labeled down here? Okay. When we think about that, we're looking at the number on the diagram on the left and trying to figure out where the storms are. And where the blue shading, or the cooler colors here, over on this Hofmüller diagram, means that all the thunderstorms are sitting in this area with sinking motion here and here. Now this sinking motion over the next 3 to 5 days is sitting right over where we would expect tropical systems to develop. And because of that, that's why the National Hurricane Center at this point is saying no development in the next 5 to 7 days. But do you notice how once we get out past about the 21st of June and beyond, we start to see these cooler colors showing up right on top of this area? That, at that time period, is going to allow for better exhausting of the upper level winds. And I'm just saying this because this is a conducive environment for tropical development. So I just want you to kind of keep your eye on this area as we progress toward the end of the 3rd week and then the 4th week of the month of June, okay? Talk about temperatures. Monday's high temperatures today. Look at this. We're talking about cloud cover and rain not letting us get out of the 60s in most locations. How long does that last? Well, let's go from Monday into the day on Tuesday. You see much of the same story getting into Wednesday and then Thursday. And it won't be again till the end of the week where we start to get back toward normal on Friday. And as we said, on Saturday and Sunday, the widely scattered nature of the storms allows us to rebound back up with some more sunshine here into the lower 90s. By the way, if you didn't see it, go back to the midsection of the country. See the heat wave that's on in the mid part of the United States? Southwest winds, high evaporation rates. We're concerned about regional drought development in this area as we progress through this through the middle of this week. Now let's go back to our longer range outlook. This is now day 6 through 10, both the European model, which is over here on the right, and the GFS on the left. You can see that overall they're trying to keep the big heat west, right? So we're expecting near average temperatures, so upper 80s, lower 90s at this point. And as we go out here to the 11 to 15 day time period, while the GFS is cooler in through here, both models are kind of figuring near average for the Carolinas, with warmth spreading across much of the rest of the country and through the Canadian prairies. Something just to keep a close eye on there. Okay, brand new long range update. This is now July the 1st through July the 7th. And while, again, we're seeing the big time heat out west in the models, we're getting near average to slight warm bias over here in the Carolinas. But do notice that the models at that point are also keeping things quite wet. So that's a good week 3 outlook here for us as we finish the month of June and start the month of July. I'd like to just give you a quick international flavor to finish this one up. We're going to talk about 2 areas. One is going to be Europe and around the Black Sea. The second one's going to be here in parts of China. Look at the Europe first. We do notice very stormy week throughout much of Europe, helping their soil moisture issues in through here. And then at the end of the week, look at all the storms in and around the Black Sea. That's critical for the crops that are grown here. Going back and watching it again, you can see quite a bit of precipitation moving through China's main growing areas in through here throughout the last week, at least as measured by satellite. But I want to show you both of these areas looking longer term here, okay? So let's go first to Europe. We are continuing to expect a large section of Europe to have a stormy week, but do notice much of the Russian wheat belt and parts of Ukraine are showing up dry, and the whole region over here in and around the Black Sea, north of it at least, is showing up wet in our warmer than average in our forecast. Finally, some new long-range data released from China's main growing area. Well, where is that? Well, Beijing is here, and surrounding it in this area just north of the Korean Peninsula, which is right there, that's their fertile farm ground. You can see some regional soil moisture problems with the map that's over there on the right, but the map I've been drawn on the left shows the next month's worth of precipitation. And there's starting to be some concern that we could see some drought developing in this area, and that's going to be critical to understanding how much grain they're going to be able to produce in China this year. So I'll keep a close eye on it, report back to you. Thanks for starting your week off with me. I gave you a lot of information to think about here, and I look forward to talking to you again next week, okay? Have a good one. Thank you.